Okay, it's about 7 o'clock. If we could get started, we've got a long program. We'll call the meeting to order. If you can silence your phones. We will start off with the pledge by Mr. David Wood.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, David. Leah has got to leave, so we will start with the treasurer's report.
It's a 2-month treasurer report covering February and March. We had an income of $399 from dues and map sales and book sales. We also had a couple of donations, and we had expenses of $355. We paid our annual report, our annual dues to the state, some postage. I wrote the check for $150 for this facility. So we have left in the bank $2,391.07. Our CD is at $11,456.04. In April, I don't know if I need a motion or not. In April, I'm paying our insurance with Reynolds Insurance. We have a policy that covers all of these meetings, and one piece of equipment. A camera, I believe, which is it that camera that you're using right
Yes.
now? That is covered. And we will need we'll talk about this later, for our August meeting for the World War II program, we will need an event policy that will cover us, and wherever we end up holding it may require us to, what's the word? Indemnify them. So there'll be about somewhere in the neighborhood of $120 that we'll have an expense for that. But we have some allocations for the World War II program that we hope will cover that.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions?
Make a motion to accept.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Leah, thank you.
All right. There it is. Thank you.
Is everybody getting their minutes? Any questions or comments or anything on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved. Second.
In favor? Any opposed? All right. We have a possible program in May. We have several, if you noticed on your minutes, we have several months that we don't have a program. Melissa will tell you about an opportunity we have for a May program. And I want to hear the discussion on whether you want to use that program as our meeting or if we want an additional program. We are hopefully going to support this program. We may need a motion on that once she tells you what's going on, then we'll ask for a motion to help support that program.
Some of you may know or have heard about a new book that's out about the 1978 train accident that was in Waverly. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but Dr. Yasmin Ali, who is a Vanderbilt professor, wrote the book. And she's now touring and talking about her book. I have gotten her scheduled for Saturday, May the 6th at 2 p.m. at the Houston County Public Library for her to come and to give that talk. There will be books there for sale, and she will sign them. She does require or ask for a $200 speaking fee. The Friends of the Library has agreed to pay $100 if we would kick in the other $100. And I'm just handling all of that. I'm going to have something put in the paper. The Archives is paying for the ad in the paper. So that's happening on May the 6th at 2 p.m. at the library. On a Saturday. And so, and then that's up to everybody if they want to make that the main meeting or do another meeting.
Okay, we will sponsor that if there is a motion and if that goes through. Alan?
Make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is for the Houston County Historical Society to donate $100 toward the speaker's fee for the program May 6th at the library at 2 o'clock on the Waverly incident, 45 years ago. The discussion is, do we want to use that as our meeting, or do you have any ideas for another meeting in May? It's on a
I
Saturday.
recommend we use it for a meeting.
Use it for our meeting? Okay. All in favor of doing that?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Well, we hope you can make it, so that will be our May meeting.
Melissa, one thing about, how much room does the library have?
Well, I talked to them about that. It depends, it's gonna be kind of an in and out, it's not gonna be everybody sit down type of thing. She will be speaking, but we can also use the main part of the library, they have used that before for author talks. So we'll have room, and like I said, people can either stand or come and go, and so.
Are they gonna be open at that time?
Yes.
Is the library open for business at that time as well? Or
No,
is it just for?
but they're gonna be open for
just
this.
for this
They're
event?
opening now on Saturdays, until noon.
Okay.
They're looking to possibly open for full-time on Saturday, but I've already talked to the library, we've got it set up, it's fine.
Okay. And you may notice on the minutes, we still have several months that are open. If you have any ideas for a meeting, we're open to suggestions. We will meet, as you noticed, with Stewart County in June. That's our joint meeting that we flip-flop back and forth each year. Any old business? You know, we got the maps for sale, we've still got cemetery books, we have Alice Miles prints, still working on World War II. Do you all want to give an update or anything on that?
We're getting more information, and I think people are gonna be really surprised with the information that we have been able to unearth about the soldiers who are from here or have ties to Houston County. We're really encouraging people to get their information in quickly because it's gonna take quite a time to process everything, so please, if you have pictures, I wanna thank Scott, he brought his dad's picture today, so. Any pictures that you have, please get them to us, because I think that's really gonna really help our program, because people love the pictures.
I want to add a little something to that,
Certainly.
which I didn't at night. My father-in-law, Danetta's father, just married, he was in the Navy, and he was a school teacher, and the day they dropped the bomb on Pearl Harbor, he resigned and he was going through it for his physical, and if any of you ever met him, I called him Big Daddy, he was 6'7", and he had played center for UT in basketball. So he's going through the line, and it was the Navy, he was in New Orleans, and they rejected him because of his height. And, so there was a man in the room, and so Big Daddy went to a room where they were going to help him find a job he already had. And the man in the room in the suit went to the doctor, and they came and got him and had him come back through. And he got ready for them to measure him. The doctor said, "Stoop." He stooped. Okay, he passed. He went through basic training wearing wingtips. They didn't have a shoe that would fit him. But he became a lieutenant commander. He was a lieutenant commander of an LST. They call it a long, slow target. And they were at Iwo Jima. And he brought a man that had taken a picture of the Marines raising the flag. And he said, "I think this will make history." Joe Rosenthal got on his LSD, the little landing craft, and he took him, he had to take, wounded him, and he took him, and Joe Rosenthal. Little did I know that I would end up being his son-in-law. But Suzanne and I, when we were married, we were in Hawaii, and went to the punch bowl in the cemetery, and Joe's buried there, Joe Rosenthal. And I knew the story, so it all kind of ties together. So it's just, if you, of course, they're gone now, but if you sit and listen to them, it's amazing what they're like. And Bill and I were talking about it, people will sit and listen to us. It's amazing. I just thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you. No submarine service for Slim, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, the world's full of little stories where people just popped elbows. And, you know, it's really amazing.
Is there any other things you want to discuss or talk about before we let Melissa have her program? I would like to say that I brought Miss Peggy Breeden with me tonight. Her husband was...
She probably won't do it anymore.
Her husband was...
When I used to bring her, she'd always want to stop at the bar.
The sun was in her eyes this time, she couldn't see it. But her husband is a descendant of the same family that Melissa will be talking about. So she'll give a archives update and our program tonight. I was hoping Miss Emily Moore could come as well, but I'm sure you'll be fine. We've got a table full. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and I'll be honest with you, this was kind of a last minute put together. When I talked to Deborah last week and was telling her about the May event, she says, okay, we still need April, can you do it? And I said, okay. You all probably get tired of hearing me, but I love talking about our archives. I love talking about all the wonderful records that people donate to us, and they're donating fast and furious. April the 5th, and I don't know what day that was, April the 5th, we had 6 different people walk in the archives with records donations. So they're coming in fast and furious. And I usually give an update on the archives, and I usually just say we've had a lot of donations. Well, we've come up with a form that we have people fill out now. And so I brought, this is the form, this is how many forms we've had people donate stuff since our last meeting in February. And so I brought those. The first one is actually one that was donated yesterday afternoon. I was actually not in the archives, I was at a meeting, and they just left it at the door. And it wasn't a baby, but they left it at the door. And it's this right here, so when you get a chance, this is not going to be a real long program, so you get a chance to look at everything. But this is right here, and there's a picture, a representation of what it is. And it was in an Amazon envelope, and in that Amazon envelope there was a note. And it said, found in Lewis Branch Creek. And it says that, and I actually talked to the lady who donated it today. I tracked her down because her name was on the envelope as far as the label where Amazon had shipped her something, but I didn't have a phone number or anything. Her name is Wendy, and I cannot pronounce her name. It's Haeme, and she lives on Brown Cemetery Road. So I don't know her. But she said she looked it up by the pattern. It's actually parts of a silver tray that was found in the creek. I don't know at what point it got in the creek, but she says it is an 1883 F.B. Rogers Silver Company round floral pattern, 3-legged serving tray, and she believes it's 137 years old. Now, I don't know if it's truly silver. I don't know how to tell by just not taking it to a jeweler or a mineral person, but it's just the outside of the tray. The middle part's all gone, but it's up here. So that was donated yesterday. And I'm grateful that she remembered or thought of us to bring it. Eldon Schmidt actually donated a wonderful piece of artwork by Alice Miles. We have one of her artworks in our archives, but she donated another one, and it was a pencil drawing of Mr. and Mrs. Miles' home that was in Tennessee Ridge. It's no longer there. And so we're very glad to get that. And then Gloria Wyatt McIntosh donated a World War II photograph of her father, and I think you already have it, but it was with her father and an unknown person together. She also gave us another copy of the Stuart Houston Times where they published the 1944 Christmas part, so she gave us another one of those. Miss Patsy Adams, and if you know these people, thank them for donating to the archives. Patsy Adams brought us a whole stack of stuff. She brought us, and I didn't bring it tonight because I have all of this, but she brought us a card with buttons on it, like you would purchase them in a store or something like that. And they had been made at the garment factory here in Houston County. And they were, she said they were used for house coats. So that's pretty interesting. She brought an Erin Elementary photograph from 1958-59. That's in our pictorial history book, actually. She brought a Girl Scout cookbook that was put together by local scout troops from 1987. She brought money bags from different banks in Houston County. 2 small ones and 2 big ones. There was no money in it. I was very disappointed. She brought, and I don't know if any of you remember this, but and I don't know if it was the county or who sold them, who did them. Back in 1998, there was a board game made about Houston County. And I had one already, but she brought us another one. She brought us some Irish Celebration photographs that date back to the 60s. And so that's what she donated. Mr. Jerry Baxter, he worked at Napa. Many of you will remember Mr. Jerry Baxter. He's doing well, fine. He came in. And he donated the Schmidt family history, the little book that they had put together for one of their reunions from 1982. Miss Inez Dyer had actually put it together. So we have that. And an Erin postcard. We had a couple, and you may have seen it in the newspaper, a mother and a daughter who came into the archives and brought a bunch of pictures. They were from Alabama. They were from Alabama. Their families from Houston County. And they allowed us to digitize those photographs. They didn't donate them, but they let us digitize them. And they said they were going to go back and look for more. They sent me some more scanned ones, but she's going to get some prints made and send them to me. They're 1,800 photographs from the 1800s. So we're very, very glad about that. Miss Brenda Lewis, who's here, donated 2 more mannequins. These are gorgeous mannequins. I'm sure not all of you are into pricing mannequins, but they're very expensive. And so we're going to be able to use these for our World War II event to put our uniforms on and things to display those. So that I'm very excited about that. So thank you, Miss Brenda, for doing that. Trying to think what else. Oh, Miss Terry Mitchum. She came in with a huge box. And she said, this is from the Big Yellow House. Of course, I get really excited. I'm thinking, what did they find in the Big Yellow House? Gratefully, it was a whole box full of Irish Celebration memorabilia. The Mitchums, I'm sure, were very involved. And Miss Fay, I think, was the one who kept all this together. And she put them all in file folders, and she labeled each file folder by year. I have been going through those, and I'm learning a lot about our early Irish celebrations. I'm about this close to writing a book. I want to write a book about the history of our Irish celebration, because we have so much information, we can talk about it. The kids in the early 60s were on the Bozo show, advertising it. Yeah. What Miss Fay would do is she would take the children, and they would all go, 30 of them. However many, go to Nashville, and they would go to the TV stations and the radio stations, and so very interesting. Of course, Miss Deborah Underwood donated, some of you may have seen it, a quilt from Spring Hill School dated 1934-35, and has all the students' names stitched on it. It's a beautiful quilt, so she donated that. Let's see. Oh, Miss Judy Deason actually donated an Irish shillelagh, is that how it's pronounced, that her and her husband purchased in Ireland. And so she gave that to us. And of course, Miss Emily Moore donated this collection, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let me find my place. Oh, one more. Mr. Cecil Baggett came in, y'all know Mr. Cecil Baggett came in and donated this photograph album. He says it was in a box. He doesn't know how he got it, who it belonged to, or anything. Almost all the photographs in here are unidentified, of course. And so it is all very old. and I've taken every photograph out, looked on the back to make sure there's no names. There was one, I think, with names on it, and there's one with the Clarksville Photographer Studio on it. So, sadly, no names, but he brought it to us, which I'm very grateful that he did. So tonight, we're going to talk about the Adkins and Waynick records collection. This was, how do you pronounce it, Miss Peggy? Waynick. Waynick. Got it.
Their father was at
Yep. This was donated, this whole collection of records was donated by Emily Moore, who's a teacher, history teacher at the high school, back in February of this year. She actually received it from Miss Louise Waynick, and has kept it for many, many years since Louise had passed away. And this really is a collection of family records. I think a majority of it, though, I think were saved by Mabel and Louise Waynick. Neither one of them had children to pass this stuff down to. Louise was the last one, and so they were sisters. And their parents were Walter Thomas Waynick and Lily Enolia Adkins. So that's where the Adkins comes in. And they lived on Yellow Creek. So if you have family from that area, you may pay attention to some of this stuff because it is phenomenal records. And one of the reasons why I chose to do this tonight is because just not only to show you the records, but I'm looking at everyone that's here, and you all have heard me say it enough about looking in your attics and your basements and donating records or bringing it to us and letting us digitize the records. Because this kind of stuff, if it gets thrown away, if it gets damaged, if it gets lost, it's gone. And we don't have that history. You know, I know people are like, well, I'm not ready to let you have my stuff. That's fine. You know, we have all kinds of digitization equipment now in the archives. We can digitize photographs, we can digitize documents, we can even digitize negatives, all shapes and sizes of negatives. This collection came with negatives that were this big, and we've been digitizing those, and they're coming out beautifully. We can digitize photo slides. So don't be afraid to bring it to us. If you can leave it for a day and let us digitize it, you can pick it right back up. But if it's sitting in your storage places and your children don't want it, your grandchildren don't want it, and it gets thrown away, then that history is gone. And one of the things about the history is that when you look at some of these photographs, one I posted to Facebook, there's one picture of Mabel and Louise taken up here in Erin where the lime business was. And they're standing in such a way that you can see Arlington behind them. So it's not just the people we're trying to preserve, but it's when you look at your photographs and you see the houses and the cars and the buildings and stuff in Houston County behind them, they were also trying to preserve that. So I wanted to talk about the records, and I know I told Donald, I said I may walk a little bit, and so I wanted to tell you about some of these records. These records right here are just miscellaneous receipts, invoices, dating from 1896 up to 1946. And they just kept them. Normally this kind of stuff would get thrown away. You think about yourself, you go to the store and get a receipt, what do you do with it? You throw it away. But this is what this is. This helps to document our local history as well. These receipts are with local businesses, they're tax receipts, wonderful documentation. I'm going to go back, Donald, I'm sorry. This one was absolutely fascinating for me. You wouldn't think it would be when you look at it. This is actually a life insurance policy for Mr. Albert C. Adkins, okay? And so when I opened it up, it's pretty, it's very nice, and I started reading inside of here. And it just opens up to this, okay? When I started reading it, he lists all of his, the premiums and when he paid them. And then you come over here and he lists family members. It says answers made to the medical examiner, and then it talks about his medical background. And then it says, which family do you resemble, your father or your mother's? And he says fathers. So, And then it asks for the names, or what they died of, his family members. Mother and father, the age that they died, their cause of death, how long were they ill, previous health before they died. For all of these family members. Now, they don't list their names, but their mother, father, his 9 brothers. He lists his 9 brothers, their age, condition of health, age at death. One of his brothers, at the age of 22, was killed in battle. This insurance policy is dated, I'll find it, December 31st, 1895. So, we can imagine it was probably the Civil War, we think. Then one of his brothers died at the age of 57, died in Arkansas, causes unknown. 3 sisters, it lists his 3 sisters, not by name, but by age, what they died of. One died of consumption, one died of some kind of fever. Then it lists his father's father, his father's mother, his mother's father, and his mother's mother. And what age they died, what they died of. So, great genealogical information in this one document. So I wanted to share that with you. So back to what I was doing. All of these photographs that I put out on here, this was a large envelope of unidentified photographs for this collection. Every collection that we get in the archives inevitably has unidentified photographs. This is a lesson to you to please identify your photographs. People say, well, I have so many photographs, I just get overwhelmed. Okay, this is my tip for you. Get out a box of photographs, open the lid, get 10 photographs out of it, and then close the lid. And I want you to sit down, and I want you to work on those photographs, identifying them. Now, okay, so you may not know who the person is. Okay, that's okay, you don't know who the person is. Well, let's say you look at the photograph, you don't know who the person is, but you know who that house belongs to in the background, you know the building in the background. At least document that. And then once you're done with those 10 photographs, you're allowed to get 10 more. That helps you to not become overwhelmed. Because I know I have genealogists tell me all the time, I got so many boxes of photographs. First of all, I'm jealous because I don't have that many photographs in my family. But then they say I get overwhelmed, and so they don't ever do anything with it. So if you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so do that with your photographs. Please do that with your photographs. Because if your records end up at my archives, I may not have some nice things to say about you if they're not identified. This document here is actually a 1938 automobile registration, an original. Now you might think this is 1938, it's probably for their father, for their brother, for whoever. No, it was for Mabel and Louise.
You're kidding.
No. And their car was a 1929 sedan. I don't know what kind of 1929 sedan, but it was for Mabel and Louise, and they have, their motor number was 496377. It gives their license number. Paid $7.50 state fee. The clerk's fee was 35 cents. They paid $7.85 for their vehicle registration. And we have pictures of them in vehicles, so I don't know which one is probably the vehicle.
But Louise drove, but Mabel didn't.
Oh, well, their both names are both on there. We have these receipts. These are their tax receipts here. These 2 books are absolutely amazing. They went to the Yellow Creek School. One, I think, graduated in 1927, one graduated in 1928. These are their home economic books, and they kept them for several years. And when I say kept them, these represent several years. One is for Louise, one's for Mabel. And you'll see that they're dated about 3 or 4 years worth. There's recipes in here. There is swatches of material where they're showing examples of stitching. They talk about putting together a menu for the school board, and they serve the school board this menu. These are dated 1927. I mean, they're just amazing what they kept. This one, if you have Yellow Creek ancestors, this is, what is it?
Autograph book.
An autograph book. And it is dated 1928-29. And it's the class of 27-28. And it lists the students in the front. And then, of course, the students signed and left messages. So if you have ancestors from Yellow Creek, you might want to look at that. And you're going to get to have time to look at all of this. There's two sets of photographs here. Some are Waynick photographs, sorry, Miss P, and Adkins photographs. These have been identified. These here are absolutely amazing. I don't even know what they're called. I think these are precursors to many of us, or well, probably all of us, graduate high school. Remember the little name cards that we got graduating high school? We sent out with our invitations. I think these are a precursor to that because they're very pretty. But when you lift up the thing, the person's name is underneath there. And so there's several of these. There's one like this that has a little envelope. It's so very pretty. And inside is the card. I think it's just amazing to see this stuff from this time period. So that is that. This right here is absolutely amazing. There are a lot of things that we don't have because they were, I'm going to move back over this way, because they naturally would have been thrown away. And in the archives world, we call that ephemera. If you want to look up the definition, it's just ephemera are records that were produced for a particular reason. When that reason was done, they were typically thrown away. That's what this is. This is from Yellow Creek. The girls kept this. And what it is are all the shows, the plays, the events that happened at the school from the 1920s. These are the handbills, the advertisements for that. These would have been thrown away after the event. And so you have, this is at the Yellow Creek Auditorium, miscellaneous program given by the pupils of the elementary grades, and it lists the names of the pupils who and what they did from 1926. 8th grade graduation exercises, and it lists all the students. There is a play that they did called Borrowed Money on November the 28th, 1928. And it lists all the characters and who played those characters. And it just goes on, and this stuff just does not get saved. And so they saved it and put it in a little book, and for us as archivists, we can now document a lot more of the Yellow Creek School. And when genealogists come in and say, do you have anything on my ancestor? They went to Yellow Creek School. We can show them this. So we're very excited about this. And we have a 1944 Montgomery Ward catalog. It's in pretty bad shape, but it's really interesting to look through there from 1944. They saved it. The scrapbook on the end, Miss Emily Moore told me a story, and Miss Peggy, you may know this story, I don't know, that Louise, during World War II, wrote and talked to, I guess through letters, a gentleman who was in the military. They did postcards, we had postcards from him to her, and she kept the scrapbook, and anything he sent her, whether it was a bubblegum wrapper or anything, she put it in this scrapbook and put the date on it for when she got it. They had planned to get married after he got out of the military. And the story that Miss Emily told me is that once he talked to her father said no. After they had been conversing this whole time. And Miss Louise never married. So it's pretty sad and interesting all at the same time. One set of documents that we've received in this collection, that is going to touch our total history, is we've received Sparkman Burial Association records. Now before Wiseman, or maybe I don't know if it's before or at the same time. Yeah, because I think at one time it was Wiseman Sparkman or Sparkman Wiseman. But this is just Sparkman. And these are those records. They kept all of them that they got. They kept them in a little notebook. These are kind of like, if you were a member of the association, and you would receive this kind of like a newsletter. And so they kept all of them, dating from 1933 all the way to 1946. And what these are, it's kind of interesting. You talked about documenting something. They would send these out to their memberships because you paid money to be part of this. Well, they're showing you how your money is being paid. Well, in order, when they paid out money, what did they pay out money to do? It's a burial association. Bury somebody. That's when they would pay out money. So, when they sent you this letter, it says, "Dear member, on account of the funeral of members as listed below, it is necessary to make an assessment. Please make remittance promptly and protect yourself. Funds received from 1,214 members was $277.40. Then it lists their expenses. Postage was $16.10. Printing, Houston County Times, meaning they did their printing at the Houston County Times newspaper. The newspaper actually did printing as well. That was $44. Then listen to this, and this is on every one of these. They paid out for the funeral of Mrs. Lula Harris, $100. Funeral for Mrs. Sally Thorne, $100. Then it shows a balance on hand of $17.30. Now I thought to myself, no, wait a minute, if I died and they're going to go to bury me with $17.30, because it looks like burial is $100. So every one of these papers lists the funeral of someone and how much they paid out. So we don't have the Wiseman Funeral Home records, but we do have these Sparkman burial records. So we're very happy to have these and are grateful to have them. But this is this collection, and I wanted to share it with you because it's absolutely amazing. Not only because of the Adkins and the Waynick family, but because it's local history. And now that it's in the archives, it will be here forever for anybody. When we're not here in 100 years, they can still look at these records. Because we have started processing them, and we're going to hopefully digitize as much as we can and share with everyone. So has anybody got any questions? If not, I'm going to give you all as much time as you want to look at it. Does anybody remember the Waynicks or the Adkins?
Very much.
Yeah? Can you tell me some things about any of them?
Well, neither of them married.
Yes.
I think they promised their father they would not marry, and so they did not. They lived across the creek from my grandparents. And the car that you mentioned, I used to ride to church with them or to Bible school in Van Leer for the EUB church. And it may have been that old car because there was no back seat in it. We had to stand up in the back. It was an old purple car, old, and this was probably in the 60s. Yeah.
Well, surely by the 1960s, the 1929 sedan has bit the dust, but you never know.
Well, I don't know. They were large women.
You know, when you look at the pictures of them, to me, Louise doesn't look that large, but maybe she got larger later.
She was not as large as Mabel, but.
But when I look at the pictures of Mabel, and I can say that because I'm a large woman, Mabel was large for the time. You don't see very many large people at that time. And so she looked like she could have probably been a fullback on a football team. But they're both beautiful women, you know, and so, but I'm just grateful that they kept these records. So, any other, Miss Peggy, you have a memory you want to share?
Not really. Y'all had known them longer than I have.
So, and I'll tell you, some of these were the unidentified photographs. These right here were a surprise to me. We don't know who they are, but there's a couple of 2 or 3 of these small photos like this. And if you look on the back, it says, little favorite photos. Send us any good picture you wish copied, together with 30 cents, and we will make you 1 dozen like this one. Original return with small pictures. This was done at Ruskin Cave. It was a side business, I guess, or a business that Ruskin Cave did, and it says Ruskin Cooperative Association, Ruskin, Tennessee. Does not. But if you look at the photograph, it is late 1800s. Her dress is late 1800s, maybe early 1900s.
Experiment in socialism.
Yeah.
That's it.
But that's all I've got. I know it's short, but I want to give y'all time to look at the records. And please pick them up and look at them. For the majority of them, they're pretty sturdy and we can pick them up. And if you see any of the unidentified, you know who they are, let me know. But that's all I have.
One of those you were talking about, the playbill for the plays.
Yes.
I've got one that my Uncle Hugh is listed as one of the players.
Neat.
Yeah.
And here is that, I love this life insurance policy, where it lists all of his family members.
You know, we should all list our, family's diseases and things in our family books to know, for the next generation to know.
Yes, absolutely.
But I don't think it would be that difficult to look and see who his family members were, his brothers and sisters and their ages from a census
And
record.
part of this collection, and I'll give the really huge kudos to Emily Moore, when she got this collection, and I want to say it was just after Louise died, and I want to say she died in early 2000s. I can't remember the date she died. And Miss Emily Moore actually started researching this family. It's not her family, but she started researching this family. She even has a tree on Ancestry. And she printed out some of the family research and gave it to me to go with it. So she did a good job on researching. So that's all I've got. You're welcome to look at all of this documentation. And like I said, that's what the archives is for, is to save and preserve our history, whether it's our family history or our local history. So and we're trying to do that.
Good program. Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn, and we will.
So moved.
Second.
Done.
I hope you can identify something.